about tactics, tricks, attacking, but now we're going to talk about the end game, okay? So this is really important. In the end game, one of the most important things, hey, when I'm talking, I need everyone to just pay attention, okay? So in the end game, some simple strategies, okay? You want to look to see if you have a pass pawn. So this position is pretty easy, okay? Raise your hand if you see a pass pawn. A pass pawn is a pawn that doesn't have any enemy pawns in its way in the future, okay? So who's that in the back, Matthew?
Yes.
So tell the class which pawn that white has is a pass pawn.
Pawn on A3.
A3 here. So this is not a pass pawn because of this pawn. These two aren't pass pawns because of these pawns. And even if I mixed it up a little bit and put pawns like this, they still would not be pass pawns because both of these can stop these two. But this one has nothing in its way. Nothing, so that's a pass pawn. Another word for it is a passer, okay? So who can tell me why that's important to have a pass pawn? Michael.
Because if one of your major pieces die, like a queen or something, you can revive it.
When someone else is talking, try not to talk. I can't hear what Michael's saying. So Michael, say it again. Why is this
But
important?
if you get to A8, then
becomes-
you can revive one of your pieces.
Yeah, and generally you're going to promote it to
The queen.
queen, right? So the word's not revive, right?
You wouldn't get it.
Listen up. We're not reviving, we're promoting a pawn. Okay? So basically we're learning today that a pass pawn, listen up. A pass pawn has a better chance to promote later because there's no other enemy pawns to worry about. So now I want to take you to a different example, slightly different. Okay? And let's say the king
Wait,
is here.
Wait, that pawn on A4 or A3
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be able to make it because you could just move the king side.
Right, but we have a king. So your point
So
is
you have to move
your
your king
point is
back up.
correct. The other guy's king, you know, let's say we put it back like this. The other guy's king could come over. Let's say we did this, he does this, and we can't move anymore.
The king can
But
move
while this king is worried about this, guess what this king can do?
up. He can.
Gobble.
Gobble.
Gobble, and then guess what? One of these three will probably become a queen. So that's all because of this. Okay, does everyone understand? A pass pawn, when there's no enemy pawns to stop it, the other person's pieces and king have to come over and spend energy on this. Okay? So my next example is a little harder position. Okay? This next example you have, listen up here. In this next example you have a position like this now.
Oh, that's easy. Oh,
Okay.
that's easy. Oh,
Let's say the position is like this.
I don't have a queen. Rip.
Okay.
You're about to get wrecked.
So let's say the position is like this now. All right. So both sides have 5 pawns. Both sides, and let's say our king is back here. So both sides have a king. Both sides have a rook. This is a very common type of a position in the endgame. So we need to learn some basic rules here in the endgame. Okay. Just like in the opening, there's 3 rules. I got 3 rules that I want everyone to learn today. Number 1, okay, you want to use your strongest piece that you still have to go attack the enemy's weak pawns. So does anyone see a weak pawn that black has that's not protected by anything? Nick, which one of black's pawns is not protected by anything? There's a couple of them. F6, that's one.
B7.
And B7. So we want to use our strongest piece. What's our strongest piece, everyone? Our rook here, to attack one of these 2. We have to decide which one. The second rule in the end game is we need to activate our king. Remember, these rules apply to both sides. So he's trying to use his strongest piece against our weak pawns. He's trying to activate his king. So are we, okay? But luckily, it's our turn. So now we have to decide, should we attack this one or this one? And then rule number 3 is create a pass pawn if we can. We don't have a pass pawn right now. So if we can create a pass pawn, that would be great. And then, I forgot, there's one more rule. Rule number 4, stop your opponent from doing those rules, okay? So, who knows what move we should do here? Nick?
Well, you could sacrifice your pawn on H2.
And then you have a
So that's how you create a pass pawn here, right? But before we want to do that, we want to think about rule number 1. We talked about using our strongest rook to attack his weakest pawns.
Go to D7.
So go to D7 or here.
You can move. Yeah.
So let's look at the difference. Evan, can you tell them the difference between this move, which attacks this, and this move, which attacks this?
I think rook D7 is